All right, let's run it up. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here with you, and a happy Sunday morning to everybody. If you're sitting back, drinking some coffee, having some breakfast, watching the 49ers Report, what a great way to round out your weekend. Coming up here on the show, Niners winners and losers after preseason game number 2 against the Las Vegas Raiders. I know it was a preseason affair, but as thrilling of a preseason game as you could have imagined. Before we do all of that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily Niners coverage right here on the 49ers Report. Anytime I'm talking about San Francisco, I want our coverage to be insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking. I want you to have a voice. If all that sounds great, join the movement, lock us in, and hit that sub button. Winner number 1 from preseason game number 2, it is Jake Moody. And I have to admit, I must eat the crow. After Jake Moody missed that 50-plus yard field goal and then snuck that kick just inside the left upright from 26 yards, I put out a video on X, Instagram, a YouTube short, and I said, it is time for the San Francisco 49ers to cut Jake Moody. Leave him in Las Vegas. Admit that you made a mistake in drafting a kicker in the 3rd round, which they never should have done, and it is time to move on. Well, what did Jake Moody then do? He redeemed himself, and hopefully now he has confidence moving forward, because when he missed that 53-yarder, nobody thought that he was going to split the uprights as it was well left. He didn't even think that he was going to make that kick. None of his teammates or his coaching staff thought that he was going to connect on that long field goal. And after the 26-yarder went just inside that left upright, you're like, are you kidding me? The Niners have a kicker issue again. He is going to cost them games in the regular season because I don't think they're going to move on, and they still might keep him, and he still might cost them games. But what you want to see is him flushing those misses, having some intestinal fortitude, having a Teflon mental makeup, coming back to drill a 50-yarder, a 44-yarder to tie the game, and a 59-yard field goal to win the game at the buzzer. And that kick was not only true in going through the uprights, it had some distance to it. I am somebody who values offensive line play. The Niners seem to ignore that. I am somebody who believes that special teams matter, and I believe these things to my core. And Kyle Shanahan, I don't think, has taken special teams seriously enough. And so for the Niners to mess around and be content with just being okay to good isn't good enough for me. I want them to strive for greatness. And that's why I get so annoyed when Jake Moody is missing all of these kicks, because the Niners brought in competition for him in Greg Joseph. He wasn't real competition. He hasn't been a consistent kicker throughout his career, especially from 50-plus. And some people are saying, Moody missed from 53. Chill out. There was a kicker for the Jags, Cam Little, who drilled a 70-yarder last week. We are seeing kickers like Brandon Aubrey of the Cowboys routinely connect from 55, 60-plus. I expect my field goal kicker for an NFL team to hit those kicks regularly. And for Moody, the excuse was he had the ankle injury last year. That's why he kicked so poorly to start this game. What was the excuse? He's now 100% healthy. But for him to get these game reps and get these situational reps when the pressure cooker was on, when the noise and the crowd volume was loud inside Allegiant, because Niners and Raider fans filled that building to the lid, making it one of the best preseason atmospheres you can ever imagine. That is huge for his mental makeup, and that is big for the spirits of this Niners team. Now, I still don't have a ton of confidence that if week 1 against the Seahawks on the road were to come down to a Jake Moody kick to win the game, that he's going to sink it. But at least now he's proven that he can succeed in those types of situations. And so credit to Jake Moody for shutting me up and for coming back to make those big-time clutch kicks that were not easy kicks. 44, 50, and 59, which would be a career long. Winner number 2, Brock Purdy. I thought Brock Purdy looked awesome to start this game. And the offense moved the ball so efficiently. Brock Purdy looked so good that that's the only series that they played in this game. Purdy on that first drive, 5 of 7 for 66 yards. And what I absolutely loved, and this is another winner here, is that the Brock Purdy to Ricky Pearsall connection, which has been dominant throughout training camp, translated to the game against another opponent that's not the Niners, but also in joint practices against the Broncos, against the Raiders. Ricky Pearsall has made some nice plays. But for that connection to be successful in front of all of us, it's huge for this Niners offense going into 2025 because Ricky Pearsall clearly has a lot of ability. Ricky Pearsall can clearly play and have success in this league, and he clearly has so much upside and playmaking ability. He just needs to stay healthy. Purdy to Pearsall for 8 yards, first pass of the game and first play of the game. Purdy to Pearsall for 14 yards shortly thereafter, and then a phenomenal layered ball from Purdy to Pearsall on a third down for 21 yards. Purdy looked awesome. He looked accurate, and that's a really good sign that both him and Pearsall were on the same page. Nik Martin is a huge winner. Nik Martin in the preseason opener looked like a guy who didn't play a lot last year at Oklahoma State because he missed a lot of time with the knee injury. He was over pursuing. He was missing tackles. He was whiffing. He couldn't throttle down. His aggressiveness and play speed, which can be a great strength, turned into a big weakness and bit him in the rear because he couldn't really play with tempo in order to make tackles. But in this game, he was really all over the field. He has blazing sideline to sideline speed. He can get up and down the field in a vertical fashion. And you see why the Niners took him in the third round. Like, you think about how Azeez Al-Shire played for the Niners, how Dre Greenlaw played for the Niners, the style of play that Fred Warner has. They're menaces who can impact the game in a couple of different ways. And you see that potential with Nik Martin. Do I think he's there yet? No, but he's a rookie. Led the team in tackles with 6, 5 of which were solo, had a sack, 2 TFLs, and 1 quarterback hit. Great to see him make an adjustment from missing out on plays in week 1 to finishing those plays in week 2 of the preseason. Chase Lucas. Chase Lucas had a tremendous game in week 1 of the preseason against Denver. I really like how Robert Saleh utilized him as a delayed blitzer, as a corner blitzer. Chase Lucas made his impact be felt. One of his blitzes, as I pull up his numbers from that week 1 preseason game, led to the Bo Nix safety. And in talking about how Robert Saleh utilized Chase Lucas, he's been a career special teamer up until this point. And so he was playing a little outside corner, a little inside corner against Denver, and you just put him in a position to succeed. Then in this game here tonight, he had another sack on a corner blitz, and he had an interception. He's playing so well and has special teams value that he has worked himself to a point where he simply has to make this team. Bryce Huff, I thought, flew under the radar. There were back-to-back plays where he had really good reps. He was able to collapse the pocket on Geno Smith to force an errant throw, and then on the next play, he collapsed the pocket because of a speed and bull rush. That's what Bryce Huff can bring this team. And when you put him along that defensive line, opposite of Nick Bosa, with Alfred Collins and CJ West and others, you see why Huff was traded for by the Niners, why Robert Saleh is a believer in him. And Saleh saw it with the Jets 2 years ago. He had 10 sacks and 67 pressures. And maybe Huff's numbers aren't that great, but I think that he can hover around 8 sacks and pressure the quarterback quite often. He also made a play backside against the run. Really good stuff from Bryce Huff here today. Marquise Siegel. Wouldn't surprise me if in week 1, the 5th-round pick out of Kansas State, who runs 4-3 and can also play slot nickel, starts for this team at safety. In week 1 of the preseason, he was making a lot of really nice plays, And then there was a play on a third down where it was one-on-one. I believe it was a screen pass. He throttled down, had a nice pursuit, and then formed tackle. And if he didn't make that tackle, would have went for a first down for sure. Could have gone for a touchdown. Marquise Siegel might be another fifth-round gem for the San Francisco 49ers. George Kittle, 5th round. Dre Greenlaw, 5th round. List goes on. Talanoa Hufanga, Diamador Lenore. Those are legitimate players. Marquise Siegel looks to be a legitimate player. We'll get to my losers here coming up in just a moment. But these Niners hoodies, we sold a couple of these during the watch party, thanks to everybody who tuned in. They were $80 originally. They are now on sale for just $48, nearly 50% off. Take advantage of this deal and get your pullover hoodie while supplies last. Chatsports.com/Niners hoodie. Use that link, and if you do, you'll get that discount. If you don't, won't get that discount. It's chatsports.com/Niners hoodie. To my losers, Chase Sr. and all of the Jake Moody haters. I put out a video saying the Niners need to cut Jake Moody. He shut my ass up, and I will certainly eat the crow. And anytime that I am wrong, I am willing to admit that I was wrong. Again, moving forward, do I have more confidence in Jake Moody that he's going to connect on some of these clutch kicks? No. My confidence was a 3 out of 10. Maybe it's up to a 4 out of 10. I think the Jake Moody experience, until he proves us wrong consistently, is going to continue to be a roller coaster. But for him to go out there, loud environment, pressure on, Pete Carroll tried to ice him on that 59-yarder, and for lack of a better term, he fucking drilled it. Good for Jake Moody. I am a loser for our Niners winners and losers segment from the second week of the preseason. Loser number 2 is Jair Brown. First drive of the game offensively for the Raiders, he got Randy Mossed by Brock Bowers. I know that Brock Bowers is probably the second best tight end in the game behind George Kittle, but Jair Brown is going to be going up against those types of players. And he kind of lost his footing as he tried to go up and get it, and Bowers snatched it off his head. That's what we call a head top, ladies and gentlemen. And then a little bit later, when the Raiders starters were still in, one-on-one, him and Ashton Jeanty met at the goal line, and it was Ashton Jeanty who won that battle with a truck stick. Ashton Jeanty, 7th overall pick. You have to know a running back is legit if you're going to take them top 10 in today's NFL. He looks to be legit. He ran over and through Diamador Lenore, ran over and through Jair Brown, and Jair Brown is a player who is trying to flush what was a down 2024 after a good 2023 when he was a rookie and stepped in for Talanoa Hufanga. Plays like that stick out on tape, that are in the red, also known as negative plays, don't help your case in trying to lock down a starting role for a position that is up for grabs, especially when a rookie is climbing up the depth chart and you have Malik Mustafa coming back at some point off that ACL surgery this offseason. The Niners injury bug. And I don't want to say that any player is a loser, but it feels like every drive, every day, we are talking about a different Niners injury. Dominic Pooney is one of the top up-and-coming guards in football at right guard. He plays along a Niners offensive line that outside of him and Trent Williams is very, very average. On a field goal kick, he was in there blocking on special teams, and I know some people will say, why is he in there blocking on special teams? Well, you look at a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, like Jordan Mailata is always in there blocking for field goal kicks. Dominic Pooney was in there because you need to practice this. But he got rolled up on. He has a PCL sprain in his knee, and he's going to be out a few weeks. That could loom large for week 1 against the Seattle team that has a defense led by Mike McDonald that is giving Kyle Shanahan fits. Corey Kiner popped a long run for like 19 yards, has a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for a few weeks. The Niners are beaten up and battered at the running back position. Patrick Taylor, dislocated shoulder. He's out for a couple of weeks. So it's an overall loss for this entire team and organization, that they continue to suffer injuries. And at this point, I just think that they're cursed on the injury front. And then lastly, the Niners red zone offense. I know it was the first drive for the Niners offensive starters. And there was a lot of positives from what Brock Purdy was able to do, especially connecting with Ricky Pearsall and how Purdy looked decisive, accurate, knew where to go, little mobility in the pocket. Ricky Pearsall looking to be a legitimate player. That's huge for this Niners team as well. But last year, a huge issue for this Niners offense was they would move the ball. They would matriculate downfield. They would stall in the red zone, and they would have to settle for 3 instead of 7 often. That difference of 4 points, it's huge in the NFL. In a game, in a league where a lot of games are decided by 1 score or less. You do that multiple times, that's the difference between wins and losses. And so the lack of efficiency in the red zone last year was an issue. This year, you hope it's not an issue. You didn't have Trent Williams. You didn't have Christian McCaffrey. But you drive all the way down the field. You do some really good things. You convert on some big third downs. And then you have to settle for a field goal. All right, winners and losers from preseason week 2. Thanks to everybody who tuned into the watch party. Thanks to everybody who watched this show. If you're still watching, give me a real one. We'll be back in the studio on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you soon.